Hi friends, I'm here today with Senator Malcolm Roberts to discuss my new book, Citizen One, The Case Against Digital Identity. Senator Roberts has been quite vocal about digital ID in the past years and was kind enough to write the foreword to the book. So, Senator, look, thank you so much for your time today, and I wonder if you could briefly share the danger you see in government-run digital ID.
Well, it's just another form of control, Paul, but what they're doing with control is they're creating victims and saying we will protect you against the people who are trying to hurt you. What they don't realise is that they're dividing society into two other groups, the controlled and the controllers. And people, even the victims that are labelled as essentially as victims, they become the controlled. And so while we think we might be helping to look after the victims, we're actually helping the controllers to take over society. And human history, human governments, human interactions have been littered with the fact that it's all about control versus freedom. It's a theme right throughout history. It's a theme within each of us. The controlling side wants to take over. It's between two of us, between groups, within groups, between two different groups, between nations, leads to war. So it's that control versus freedom. And digital identity is just a savage form of control because people don't even know they're being controlled.
Well, obviously I resonate with all of that. Look, I wonder, we had digital ID legislation passed in this country in May of 2024. I wonder, how hopeful are you that we can still get a good outcome for our country?
Short term, not very hopeful, but I do know that COVID, the mismanagement and the deceit and the fraud that was perpetrated during the mismanagement of COVID, the COVID response, has really woken a lot of people up. It's very important to understand that always throughout history, freedom prevails. But there's a lot of bloodshed sometimes and freedom coming around, and not just the fighting for freedom, but the overcoming of control. It's important to understand that it's not just about digital identity. There's a suite of legislation, and one piece of that legislation is the disinformation and misinformation bill. That was defeated because the people woke up and said, go to hell. So the suite of bills is digital identity, identity verification, which passed. All of these, I'll come back to that point in a minute, identity verification, misinformation, disinformation bill, the age verification bill, which is just a way of getting everyone to force them under a digital ID. There's another one I'm missing. And then there's the fact that the Reserve Bank has admitted to me under questioning and send estimates that they have been working on a digital currency. If you put all of them together as a suite, they then have you wrapped up and they can control what you say or don't say on social media. If you say something on social media, you might not get your money. If you don't do something, you might not get your money. If you speak badly against the COVID injections, you might not get your money. So this is about life and death, food, energy, access to the basics of our civilization. So that's what the suite is all about, the social currency. It's in place in various, to some extent in many countries around the world. It's in place to a large extent in China, but it's on its way. So that's the first thing. Secondly, that suite is pushed by both the Liberal Party and the Labor Party. Many of the elements every one of the elements that I just talked about were developed under the Liberal National Party and introduced by the Liberal National Government, with one exception, and that was introduced by the Labor. Then Labor came in and ramped it up and actually locked it in. So it's a suite of measures to control us, and it's also pushed by both sides of politics, so there's no alternative other than one, and that's the people. Because people need to understand that in our constitution, we are the top of the tree. The people are the top of the tree. And so when you see the misinformation, disinformation bill going through, getting knocked back, that was a grassroots movement. You know, we initiated that 4 years ago, and people eventually got the message. I don't deserve the credit for that. That's the people who stood up and took charge of the country. So I'm very negative in the short term, but I'm very positive ultimately. And I think that the COVID response has really woken people up because they now don't trust government.
Awoken a giant, perhaps, we can only hope.
I hope so.
So it's a complex suite of issues and a complex suite of policies you just spoke of. It sounds like in our current desire for short-form content, such as social media, education is a problem. How important do you think reading books still is?
Oh, it's fundamental. They can't doctor a book once it's published. They can doctor something on social media. They can restrain people on social media. But, with controls on the media, with controls on social media, there's only two things left, and that's books and what I call independent people's media, podcasts, independent people like yourself, like myself, getting out there and speaking and getting an electronic platform. That will be one day controlled under misinformation, disinformation. So books are the last resort. So I've been thinking, what would I do if I got knocked off social media? I came to the only conclusion: write a book, and then write little 25-page books on each little topic and get them out. So books are absolutely essential. And that's why they've tried to burn books throughout history.
Yeah, history repeats, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, Harry F. Truman said the only thing new in the world is the history you haven't read.
Isn't that
it's all
true?
happened before.
Yeah, isn't that true? Well, look, I for one appreciate the awareness that you bring to these nuanced issues, and it's a real service to this nation at a time when she faces great peril. So thank you so much. And that said, I'd like to present you this signed copy of Citizen One. There's an inscription in there from me that I hope you enjoy reading. And thank you again, Senator.
You're very, very welcome. It was a pleasure doing this for you, and I've read the foreword that the inscription. So thank you so much for that. You've quoted a very fine gentleman. Maybe, in addition to calling it the case against digital identity, you could call it the case for human freedom, because that's what you got here. This is a book about freedom and extolling the virtues of freedom. So, marvelous book. You've got it very succinctly. Each chapter is succinctly titled. And it's just marvellously thrown together, and it's a story. It's a wonderful story. It's not just a dry textbook. So get hold of it, because this is all about you and society and us and freedom.
I'm very humbled by those words. Thank you again. Yeah, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, if you'd like to learn more, as the Senator said, about the human story behind all the ones and zeros and pick up a copy of the book yourself, just head to my website, paulgconlon.com or citizenonebook.com. Thanks so much, and stay free.